The neural interface crackled as Observatory Commander Thexnali's consciousness merged with the deep space monitoring grid. 27,000 light-years of space unfolded before his enhanced perception, each stellar system a pulsing node of data streaming through quantum relays that had watched the galaxy's civilizations rise and fall for millennia. The Watchers had perfected surveillance long before most species discovered fire, their crystalline cities hidden in the void between dimensions, observing without interfering, cataloging without judging. Until this moment. "Impossible," Thexnali whispered, his six-chambered heart stuttering as the readings cascaded through his neural pathways. The third planet, from an unremarkable yellow star in the Orion Arm, a backwater system that barely registered on their consciousness, was screaming electromagnetic signatures that defied every classification protocol in their archives. His primary sensor array, Kethemora, materialized beside him in a shimmer of photonic energy, her normally serene features twisted with confusion. "Commander, the quantum resonance patterns. They're unlike anything we've encountered in 47,000 years of observation." Thexnali's tentacles danced across the holographic displays, pulling raw data streams from monitoring stations positioned throughout the galaxy. What he saw made his species' equivalent of blood run cold. This primitive world, this Earth, was broadcasting radio waves, electromagnetic pulses, and quantum entanglement signatures simultaneously. The technological progression was impossible. They had somehow leaped from stone tools to quantum mechanics in mere centuries. "Show me the historical scans," he commanded, his voice carrying the harmonic undertones that signified maximum priority. The data materialized in crystalline formations around them. Earth's progression played out in accelerated time: hunter-gatherers, agriculture, bronze working, iron smelting. Standard development patterns that matched their predictive models perfectly. Then suddenly, an explosion of advancement that seemed to violate the fundamental laws of civilizational development. "Nuclear fission achieved in 1945 of their local calendar," Kethemora reported, her voice carrying that peculiar vibration the Watchers used when confronted with anomalies. "Primitive computers by 1950, satellite communication by 1960, digital networks spanning their entire planet by 1990. Commander, they achieved in 50 years what typically takes civilizations 5,000. But it wasn't the speed of development that triggered every alarm system in the Watcher's vast network. It was something far more disturbing, the patterns hidden beneath the surface progression. Thexnali isolated a data stream from Earth's year 1969, when humans had supposedly taken their first primitive steps beyond their atmosphere. The official records showed crude chemical rockets, basic life support systems, and navigation technology that bordered on suicidal in its simplicity. Yet buried in the quantum substrate of that same data was something that made no sense. Gravitational anomalies that suggested anti-gravity manipulation, electromagnetic field distortions consistent with faster-than-light communication, and energy signatures that could only come from controlled fusion reactions. "They're hiding their true capabilities," Kethemora breathed, her photonic form flickering as she processed the implications. But why? What species deliberately conceals technological advancement from galactic observation? The answer came to Thexnali in a moment of terrifying clarity that would haunt him for the rest of his extended existence. He accessed the deepest archives, pulling surveillance data from every known first contact scenario in galactic history. The patterns were always the same. Primitive species discovered by galactic civilizations, gradually introduced to broader technology and culture, eventually absorbed into the collective consciousness of spacefaring peoples. Every successful spacefaring civilization had been discovered by more advanced races. Not one had developed in complete isolation and emerged as a peer power. Until now. "Kethemora," Thexnali said slowly, each word carrying the weight of cosmic implications. "Access the stealth probe networks. every deep space surveillance platform we've deployed in the last millennium. Cross-reference their operational status with this solar system's coordinates. The results materialized instantly, and both watchers fell silent. 17 deep space monitoring stations, 12 gravity wave detectors, 23 quantum entanglement communication arrays, all positioned within 50 light-years of Earth's solar system, all showing signs of systematic, nearly undetectable tampering. "Blessed void," Kethmora whispered. "They know we're watching." The implications cascaded through Thexanali's consciousness like a collapsing star. If humans knew about galactic observation networks, they had access to technology that shouldn't exist for another 1,000 years of development. If they could tamper with Watcher surveillance equipment without triggering alerts, their understanding of quantum mechanics exceeded most spacefaring civilizations. And if they had been concealing their true capabilities for decades while carefully studying galactic powers through compromised surveillance networks. "Emergency Protocol 77 Alpha," Thexnali commanded, his voice resonating through quantum channels that connected to Watcher installations across the galaxy. "Priority classification absolute. Subject, Soil 3, designation Earth, status unknown, threat level." The response was instantaneous. High Command materialized in the chamber, not their physical forms but consciousness projections from across the galaxy. Commander Velthun, whose species had transcended physical existence 3 million years ago, spoke first. "Explain the emergency classification, Thexnali. Our records indicate Sol 3 as a developing primitive world." "Our records are wrong," Thexnali replied, transmitting the compiled data directly into their shared consciousness. "Earth appears primitive by design, not limitation." The silence that followed lasted exactly 4.7 seconds, an eternity in Watcher time perception. When High Command spoke again, it was with the collective voice of 17 ancient civilizations. "Show us everything." Dr. Alexios Kavanaugh had been dead for exactly 73 seconds when the resurrection protocol engaged. The neural reconstructor hummed to life in the deepest levels of CERN's classified research facility, 40 meters below the official accelerator complex, in chambers that didn't exist on any blueprint or architectural survey. Kavanaugh's consciousness streamed back into his organic brain through quantum pathways that civilian science wouldn't discover for another century, his memories intact up until the moment the surveillance satellite's focused particle beam had stopped his heart during his morning jog through the Geneva countryside. "Status report," he said calmly, sitting up on the regeneration table as though resurrection was a routine inconvenience rather than humanity's most closely guarded technology. "Doctor." Yuki Nakamura looked up from her monitoring console, her expression grim. "They know, Alex. The Watchers activated emergency protocol 6 hours ago. Every deep space monitoring station from here to Proxima Centauri is transmitting maximum priority alerts." Kavanaugh's fingers traced the entry wound over his heart. Already healed, the cellular regeneration protocol leaving only a faint scar that would fade completely within hours. Death had become merely another form of temporary inconvenience since the Phoenix Project had cracked the quantum consciousness problem in 2019. The irony wasn't lost on him that humanity's greatest breakthrough had emerged from studying alien technology recovered from a crashed surveillance probe in the Atacama Desert. "How much do they know?" he asked, sliding off the table and accessing the holographic displays that materialized around him at his touch. "Enough to panic," Nakamura replied, her voice carrying that peculiar tension that came from watching carefully laid plans begin to unravel. "Our infiltration of their surveillance network held for 47 years, but something triggered their anomaly detection systems. They're backtracking through decades of observational data." Kavanaugh nodded, accessing the quantum-encrypted communication channels that connected Earth's hidden installations to monitoring stations positioned throughout the solar system and beyond. What he saw confirmed his worst fears and greatest hopes simultaneously. The Watchers weren't just suspicious, they were terrified. "Good. Initiate protocol harvest," Kavanaugh commanded. His words transmitted instantly to 3,742 hidden installations across Earth, Luna, Mars, and the asteroid belt. "Begin full data extraction from all compromised alien surveillance platforms. Authorization Prometheus 77 Delta." The response was immediate. Across the solar system, human agents who had spent decades in deep cover began the most ambitious intelligence operation in galactic history. Every compromised Watcher probe, every infiltrated communication relay, every backdoor access point that human cryptographers had painstakingly established over 5 decades of secret contact with alien technology began streaming classified information directly to Earth. "Jesus Christ," whispered Dr. Robert Hasenfeld, materializing in the chamber through holographic projection from his command post in the Kuiper Belt Research Station. "Alex, you need to see this. We're pulling technical specifications from their quantum consciousness storage systems. These beings, they've been watching us for 2,000 years." Kavanaugh felt something cold settle in his stomach. Human civilization's entire recorded history, every major technological breakthrough, every significant cultural development, all of it had been catalogued, analyzed, and filed away in alien databases like specimens in a cosmic museum. "What else?" he asked, though part of him dreaded the answer. "They know about the Phoenix Project," Nakamura said quietly. "Not the details, but they've detected the energy signatures from our resurrection chambers. They know we've transcended permanent death." The implications hit Kavanaugh like a physical blow. If the Watchers understood that humanity had solved the consciousness continuity problem, they would recognize the strategic advantage that immortality represented. More importantly, they would understand that every human death from this point forward was voluntary, a tactical choice, rather than a permanent loss. "And the really disturbing part," Hasenfeld continued, his holographic form flickering as quantum interference from deep space communications affected the projection systems. "They're not the only ones watching us. We're detecting at least 6 other galactic civilizations with active surveillance networks monitoring Earth. This isn't just first contact, Alex. This is multilateral first contact." Kavanaugh closed his eyes, processing the strategic implications. Humanity wasn't just dealing with one alien civilization discovering their hidden capabilities. They were dealing with multiple galactic powers, each with their own agendas, technologies, and potential threat assessments. The beautiful complexity of the situation made him smile, despite the circumstances. "How long until they realize we've been feeding them false data?" he asked. "Our computer models suggest approximately 6 to 8 hours before their analytical systems identify the deception patterns," Nakamura replied. "After that, they'll know that everything they think they understand about human capabilities is deliberately constructed fiction." Kavanaugh nodded, moving to the chamber's primary command interface. The quantum keyboard materialized at his touch, connecting him to the most sophisticated intelligence network in the galaxy, a network that the aliens had unknowingly helped humanity construct by providing the very surveillance technology they had spent decades compromising. "Ladies and gentlemen," he said, addressing the holographic forms of humanity's most classified leadership council as they materialized around him, "welcome to the end of the masquerade." President Elena Vasquez appeared first, her projection streaming from the underground continuity facility beneath Cheyenne Mountain. Director Liu Wei followed, connected from the hidden command center in Antarctica's Pyramid Nunatak. General Patricia Hoffman materialized from her station aboard humanity's first true interstellar vessel, currently positioned 18 light-hours beyond Pluto's orbit, invisible to alien sensors thanks to technology reverse-engineered from those same crashed surveillance probes. "Recommendations?" Kavanaugh asked without preamble. "Full disclosure," General Hoffman said immediately. If they're going to discover our true capabilities anyway, we control the narrative by revealing them first. Show them exactly what they're dealing with before they have time to coordinate a response. Absolutely not, Director Liu countered. Premature revelation risks military intervention from multiple galactic powers simultaneously. We need more time to assess their individual threat levels and potential alliance structures. President Vasquez raised her hand for silence. The decision isn't whether to reveal ourselves. That choice has been taken from us. The question is how we reveal ourselves and what message we want to send. Kavanaugh understood the subtext immediately. For 70 years, humanity had been playing the role of primitive civilization, using that assumed weakness to study galactic civilizations while they studied Earth. Now that the masquerade was ending, humanity needed to demonstrate not just technological parity, but strategic superiority. Option 3, he said quietly. We don't reveal ourselves to the Watchers. We reveal ourselves to everyone. The silence that followed lasted exactly long enough for the implications to settle into each leader's consciousness. Galactic-wide broadcast, General Hoffman asked, her voice carrying a mixture of excitement and terror. Every communication frequency, every quantum entanglement network, every gravitational wave transmission system in known space, Kavanaugh confirmed. Simultaneous contact with every spacefaring civilization in the galaxy. Not as supplicants requesting acceptance, but as equals announcing our arrival. It was audacious beyond rational calculation. It was also, Kavanaugh realized, the only strategy that might prevent humanity from being absorbed or eliminated by galactic powers who had grown comfortable with the existing balance of civilizations. Risk assessment? President Vasquez asked. Catastrophic if we're wrong about our capabilities, Director Liu replied. Catastrophic if we're right, but underestimate their response. Catastrophic if we do nothing and allow them to coordinate against us individually. Kavanaugh smiled grimly. So we're unanimous that the situation is catastrophic regardless of our choice. Then we choose the catastrophe we can control, General Hoffman said. The vote was unanimous. Within the Watcher's primary observation facility, suspended in the space between dimensions where normal physics held no meaning, chaos had assumed the form of crystalline panic structures that grew from the walls like technological cancer. Thexanali watched the formations spread, each one representing another impossible data point streaming from Earth's solar system. The humans weren't just hiding their true technological capabilities, they were actively broadcasting false information designed to maintain their primitive facade while simultaneously conducting the most sophisticated intelligence operation in galactic history. The gravitational wave detectors are showing massive signatures, reported Subcommander Riethtal, her consciousness interfacing directly with the monitoring network. Whatever they're building in their asteroid belt, it's generating space-time distortions consistent with stellar engineering. Stellar engineering? Kethamora's photonic form flickered with disbelief. They achieved nuclear fusion less than a century ago. But the data was undeniable. Hidden within the asteroid belt between Mars and Jupiter, human civilization had constructed something that was manipulating fundamental forces in ways that should have been impossible for a species that had only recently developed spaceflight. Thexanali accessed deeper archives, pulling surveillance records from every first contact scenario in the Watcher's 47,000-year history. The patterns were consistent across all species: gradual technological development, discovery by galactic civilizations, cultural integration, eventual absorption into the broader galactic community. Humans had followed none of these patterns. "Show me the quantum entanglement readings from their communication systems," he commanded. The data materialized in crystalline structures around them, and Thexanali felt something analogous to fear creep through his consciousness. Earth's communication networks weren't just advanced, they were impossible, quantum entanglement systems that maintained perfect coherence across interstellar distances, communication protocols that seemed to violate the fundamental limitations of information transfer, and most disturbing of all, evidence that human communication networks extended far beyond Earth's solar system. They have installations throughout their local stellar region, Riethtal reported, her voice carrying harmonic patterns that indicated maximum alert status. Deep space facilities that we never detected because they're using stealth technology that exceeds our sensor capabilities. The implications were staggering. If humans had established hidden installations beyond their solar system without galactic knowledge, they had access to faster-than-light travel technology that surpassed most spacefaring civilizations. More importantly, they had been conducting interstellar operations while maintaining the fiction of being bound to their home planet. "How long have they been studying us?" Kethmora asked, though Thexnali suspected they all knew the answer would be unsettling. The response came from the deepest archives, quantum-encrypted files that contained the Watcher's most sensitive intelligence, cross-referencing surveillance anomalies with known human technological development. Calculation complete. Estimated duration of human counter-surveillance, minimum 73 Earth years, possible maximum 147 years. 147 years. Humans had potentially been watching galactic civilizations since their supposed industrial revolution, learning their technologies, studying their cultures, and preparing for eventual contact while maintaining perfect operational security. "Blessed void," Thexnali whispered. "We're not dealing with a primitive species that accidentally developed advanced technology. We're dealing with a civilization that has been planning for galactic contact for over a century." And the strategic implications were terrifying. Every assumption about human capabilities was wrong. Every assessment of their technological limitations was deliberately engineered deception. Every plan for managing first contact was based on fundamentally false information. But the most disturbing realization was yet to come. "Commander," Subcommander Riethtal said, her voice carrying harmonic patterns that Thexnali had never heard before. "The humans, they're not just watching us." She transmitted the data directly into their shared consciousness, and Thexnali felt his six-chambered heart stop completely for 3.7 seconds. Humans weren't just conducting surveillance on the Watchers. They had infiltrated the communication networks, surveillance systems, and data repositories of 17 different galactic civilizations simultaneously. For decades, possibly centuries, Earth had been the hub of the most comprehensive intelligence operation in galactic history, quietly gathering information on every major spacefaring culture, while those same cultures believed they were studying a primitive world. "They know everything," Kethmora breathed. "Our technology, our cultures, our military capabilities, our territorial boundaries, our alliance structures. They've been preparing for contact with the entire galaxy." "Oh!" Thexnali accessed emergency communication protocols, broadcasting on frequencies that would reach every major galactic civilization within hours. The message was simple and carried the weight of species-level survival. Priority Alpha communication to all spacefaring civilizations. Subject: SOL-3 species designation humans. Classification: immediate galactic threat. Recommend emergency coalition formation for containment protocols. The response was immediate and universal. Every major galactic power acknowledged the transmission and began emergency mobilization procedures. But as Thexnali prepared for what could become the galaxy's first unified military action against a single world, a new transmission began broadcasting on every communication frequency simultaneously. It was coming from Earth, and it was addressed to every intelligent species in the galaxy. The message began with mathematical constants that proved universal intelligence, followed by linguistic protocols that demonstrated perfect knowledge of 17 different alien communication systems. Then came the words that would change galactic civilization forever. "Greetings. We are humanity. We know you have been watching us. We have been watching you as well. The time for observation has ended. The time for conversation has begun. Dr. Alexios Kavanaugh stood in the center of Earth's most classified facility, surrounded by holographic displays that showed the real-time reactions of galactic civilizations receiving humanity's first official communication. The responses were exactly what decades of intelligence gathering had predicted: shock, fear, confusion, and the rapid mobilization of military assets throughout the galaxy. Perfect. Phase 2 initiated, announced Dr. Yuki Nakamura, her fingers dancing across quantum interfaces that controlled communication arrays hidden throughout the solar system and beyond. We're receiving acknowledgement signals from all 17 major galactic powers. They're definitely listening. The second phase of humanity's revelation began with a simple demonstration that would shatter every assumption about Earth's technological capabilities. Simultaneously, across 47 star systems, human installations that had remained hidden for decades began broadcasting their locations and technical specifications, not as a threat, as a greeting card. "Jesus," whispered General Patricia Hoffman, watching the galactic response unfold in real time. Their mobilization patterns, it's exactly what our wargaming scenarios predicted. Kavanaugh nodded, accessing displays that showed military vessels from multiple civilizations adjusting course toward Earth's solar system. The response was coordinated, suggesting that galactic powers had pre-established protocols for exactly this scenario: the emergence of a previously unknown technological peer. The irony was perfect. They had protocols for managing threats they hadn't seen coming, but no protocols for managing threats that had been watching them prepare. "Begin Phase 3, Kavanaugh commanded. What happened next would be discussed in xenoarchaeological circles for millennia. Humanity's first demonstration of their true technological capabilities. Throughout the galaxy, every major communication hub, military installation, and civilian broadcasting system simultaneously received the same file, a complete schematic of their own technology, downloaded from their own databases, transmitted back to them with casual precision that demonstrated absolute penetration of their most secure systems. The Watchers received detailed blueprints of their dimensional observation technology. The hegemony received technical specifications for their gravity manipulation systems. The collective received architectural plans for their quantum consciousness storage facilities. Each file was accompanied by the same message: "We thought you might like to see these again. We've made some improvements." And the attached improvements were revolutionary advances on each civilization's most advanced technology, solutions to theoretical problems that their greatest minds had struggled with for millennia, presented as casual afterthoughts. "Status report on galactic military movements," Kavanaugh requested. "Unanimous deceleration across all approaching fleets," General Hoffman replied, her voice carrying a mixture of awe and satisfaction. "They're requesting permission to enter the solar system rather than assuming they can take it." The shift from invasion posture to diplomatic approach had taken exactly 17 minutes. 17 minutes for the galaxy's greatest military powers to realize that Earth wasn't a target for conquest. Earth was the most dangerous civilization in known space, and they had been studying at its feet without knowing it. "Incoming priority communication from the Watchers' High Command," Nakamura reported. "They're requesting immediate diplomatic dialogue, as are the hegemony, the collective, the Federation, and, actually, all of them," General Hoffman added. "We've got 17 different alien civilizations requesting diplomatic contact simultaneously." Kavanaugh smiled, accessing the communication array that would broadcast his response to every spacefaring civilization in the galaxy. Decades of preparation had led to this moment. Humanity's transition from observed to observer, from primitive to peer, from hidden to hegemon. This is Dr. Alexios Kavanaugh, speaking on behalf of the human species and the Sol System Coalition, he began, his words transmitted across the galaxy through communication networks that the aliens themselves had built, not knowing they were constructing the very system humanity would use to announce their arrival. We appreciate your interest in establishing diplomatic relations. However, we feel it's important to clarify a few misconceptions about our species and capabilities before we proceed. He paused, allowing the weight of what was coming to settle across galactic consciousness. First, we are not a newly spacefaring civilization. We have maintained interstellar installations and conducted deep space operations for over 70 years while studying your various cultures and technologies. The response was immediate. Emergency broadcasts across all galactic communication networks as civilizations realized that humanity had been a spacefaring power throughout the entire period they had been observing Earth. Second, we are not seeking integration into existing galactic power structures. We are announcing our presence as an independent stellar nation with territorial claims extending throughout our local stellar region and established research installations in 17 additional star systems. The implications hit galactic civilizations simultaneously. Humanity wasn't asking for acceptance into the galactic community. They were announcing their arrival as equals with established territorial sovereignty. Third, and most importantly, Kavanaugh continued, we have not been hiding our capabilities out of fear or uncertainty. We have been studying galactic civilization while remaining hidden because we believed, correctly as it turns out, that knowledge of galactic cultures, technologies, and strategic weaknesses would be more valuable than premature diplomatic contact. The silence that followed lasted exactly 23.4 seconds across all monitored communication channels. When the responses began, they carried harmonic patterns, electromagnetic signatures, and quantum resonances that human xenolinguistic experts had learned to recognize as expressions of fear, awe, and grudging respect. The galaxy's greatest civilizations were realizing that they hadn't discovered humanity. Humanity had discovered them. We look forward to productive diplomatic relations with all galactic civilizations, Kavanaugh concluded. We have prepared comprehensive cultural and technological exchange programs based on our extensive research into your various species. We believe you will find our insights illuminating. The transmission ended, leaving the galaxy to contemplate the most sophisticated intelligence operation in known history. But humanity's revelation was far from complete. In the deepest archives of Earth's quantum storage facilities, protected by encryption methods that human mathematicians had developed by solving theoretical problems that alien civilizations had abandoned as impossible, lay the true scope of humanity's preparation for galactic contact. For 147 years, since the first crashed alien probe had been recovered in the Tunguska region of Siberia in 1908, humanity had been reverse engineering alien technology, intercepting galactic communications, and conducting the longest, most methodical intelligence operation in cosmic history. Every major galactic civilization had unknowingly contributed to humanity's technological development. Every surveillance probe that had malfunctioned near Earth had been captured, studied, and replaced with perfect replicas that fed carefully constructed false information back to alien intelligence services. Every alien communication network had been penetrated, mapped, and monitored. Every major strategic decision made by galactic powers in the past 70 years had been observed, analyzed, and filed away in Earth's intelligence archives. The crashed probe in Tunguska hadn't been an accident. It had been the first move in a cosmic chess game that alien civilizations never knew they were playing. And now, as 17 different galactic fleets held position at the edge of the solar system, requesting permission to enter space that they were only now realizing had been defended by weapons systems they couldn't detect, using technology they didn't understand, operated by a species that had been studying them for over a century. The true scope of their miscalculation began to emerge. Humanity hadn't just achieved technological parity with galactic civilization. They had achieved strategic superiority. The Watchers, suspended in their dimensional observation facility, processed the implications in crystalline panic structures that now covered every surface of their command center. Thexanali interfaced directly with quantum analysis systems that had been running continuous calculations since humanity's broadcast 6 hours ago. The results defied rational comprehension. "Status report," he commanded, though part of his consciousness dreaded the response. "Complete intelligence failure across all observation protocols," Sub-Commander Reithtal reported, her voice carrying harmonic patterns that indicated psychological breakdown. Every assumption about human capabilities was deliberately engineered deception. Every data point we collected was false information designed to maintain our misconceptions while they studied our technology. Kethmora materialized beside them, her photonic form flickering with data streams that showed the true scope of human penetration into galactic civilization. "They didn't just hide their capabilities, Commander. They used our own surveillance networks to conduct intelligence operations against every spacefaring species in the galaxy. The data was overwhelming in its implications. For over a century, while galactic civilizations had been studying what they believed was a primitive world, that same world had been studying them through compromised surveillance equipment, intercepted communications, and infiltrated data networks. "Casualty assessment," Thexnali requested, though he suspected the answer would be devastating. "Total compromise of all intelligence operations," Reithtal replied. "Complete exposure of all surveillance networks. Full penetration of all communication systems, every classified technology, every military capability, every strategic weakness. They know everything, but the most disturbing revelation was yet to come." "Commander," Kethmora said, transmitting data directly into their shared consciousness, "they're not done revealing their capabilities." New transmission from Earth, broadcast on frequencies that penetrated dimensional barriers and reached civilizations that had considered themselves hidden from galactic knowledge. The message was simple and carried implications that redefined cosmic civilization. "We are also aware of the 18 additional galactic civilizations that consider themselves hidden from standard space-time observation. Your stealth technologies have been interesting to study. We look forward to meeting you as well." 18 additional civilizations. Species and cultures that had achieved technology advanced enough to hide from conventional galactic observation. Civilizations that most spacefaring powers didn't know existed. Humanity had found them all. "Blessed void," Thexanali whispered. "How long have they been preparing for this?" The answer came from quantum archaeological analysis of Earth's electromagnetic emissions dating back centuries. Based on technological progression patterns hidden within their atmospheric interference signatures, minimum preparation period, 237 Earth years, possible maximum, 415 years. 4 centuries of preparation. 4 centuries of patient intelligence gathering, technological development, and strategic planning, while maintaining perfect operational security. Humanity hadn't stumbled into galactic awareness. They had engineered their own arrival as a peer power after centuries of methodical preparation. "What are they?" Kethmora asked, voicing the question that had emerged in the collective consciousness of every galactic civilization. The analysis systems provided an answer that chilled Thexnali's 6-chambered heart. Classification unknown. Human psychological profiles suggest a species that views long-term strategic planning as instinctive behavior. Estimated operational patience, multi-generational. Assessment: they are apex predators who hunt on cosmic timescales. Apex predators. The term carried specific meaning in galactic civilization. Species that had evolved to dominate their environments through patient observation, strategic thinking, and the ability to coordinate complex plans across extended periods. But humanity had demonstrated these traits on an interstellar scale across multiple centuries. They were apex predators who had been hunting galactic civilization itself. Emergency coalition status? Thexanali asked. All galactic powers have agreed to unified diplomatic approach, Reithtal reported. 17 civilizations in formal alliance for the first time in galactic history. Military assets holding position at maximum safe distance from Sol system. Maximum safe distance. The phrase carried weight that would have been impossible to imagine 6 hours ago. Galactic civilization's greatest military powers were maintaining safe distance from a single world that had only officially revealed its spacefaring capabilities that morning. Incoming communication from Earth, Keth Mora announced. They're requesting permission to send a diplomatic representative to our primary observation facility. The request carried implications that defied rational analysis. Humans were asking for permission to visit a facility that existed between dimensions, in space that couldn't be reached by conventional technology. The very fact that they knew the facility existed proved they had penetrated the Watcher's deepest secrets. More disturbing, they weren't asking for directions. They were asking for permission. They already knew how to reach the facility. Response? Reithtal asked. Thexanali processed the strategic options available to galactic civilization. They could refuse contact and risk antagonizing a species that had demonstrated technological capabilities that exceeded their understanding. They could accept contact and risk providing humanity with direct access to galactic civilization's most advanced technologies and strategic planning facilities. Or they could acknowledge the reality that had become undeniable over the past 6 hours. Humanity was no longer a species to be studied or managed. They were a power to be negotiated with. Grant permission for diplomatic contact, Thexanali commanded. Full honors protocol. They have earned it. The human representative arrived 17 minutes later, stepping out of a transportation system that utilized technology the Watchers didn't recognize, wearing protective equipment that suggested perfect knowledge of their facility's dimensional requirements. She was young by human standards, appearing to be in her early 30s, according to their biological assessments, with the calm confidence that came from representing a species that had just redefined galactic civilization. I am Dr. Rebecca Thornfield, she said, speaking directly in the Watcher's language, with perfect pronunciation and cultural inflection. I represent the Human Soul Coalition in diplomatic contact with the galactic community. Thexanali studied the human through enhanced perception systems that had been designed to analyze every aspect of alien psychology and biology. What he found was disturbing. Dr. Thornfield showed no signs of stress, intimidation, or uncertainty. Her biometric signatures indicated complete confidence in her position and her species' capabilities. More importantly, her technological equipment was more advanced than anything in the Watcher's arsenal. Dr. Thornfield, Thexanali began, using ceremonial protocols reserved for diplomatic contact between peer civilizations. We welcome you as humanity's representative. We have questions about your species' capabilities and intentions. Thornfield smiled, a human expression that the Watchers had learned to interpret as indicating satisfaction or amusement. I'm sure you do. We've been studying your questions for quite some time. She gestured, and holographic displays materialized around them using technology that interfaced seamlessly with Watcher systems. The displays showed detailed analysis of every question, concern, and strategic assessment that galactic civilizations had made regarding Earth in the past 24 hours. You've been monitoring our emergency communications, Keth Mora stated. her photonic form flickering with what humans would recognize as indignation. "We've been monitoring all of your communications for over 70 years, Thornfield replied casually. "Your emergency protocols are quite sophisticated, by the way. We've made some improvements you might find useful." The improvements she transmitted to their systems represented advances in quantum communication technology that were centuries beyond their current capabilities. "What do you want from us?" Thexnali asked directly, abandoning diplomatic protocols in favor of the blunt assessment that had become necessary. Thornfield's smile widened. "Nothing, Commander Thexnali. We don't want anything from galactic civilization that we haven't already taken." The silence that followed carried the weight of cosmic implications. "We've spent over a century studying your technologies, analyzing your cultures, mapping your territories, and understanding your strategic capabilities," Thornfield continued. "We know your military strengths, your resource limitations, your alliance structures, and your psychological vulnerabilities. We know which civilizations would ally with us against others, which would prefer isolation, and which represent potential threats to human interests." She paused, allowing the implications to settle into their consciousness. "We don't need to conquer galactic civilization, Commander. We've already done something more valuable. We've understood it completely." Thexnali felt something analogous to despair creep through his neural pathways. "What happens now?" "Now?" Thornfield asked, her expression shifting to something that human observers would recognize as predatory satisfaction. "Now you get to learn what it feels like to be studied by a species that understands you better than you understand yourselves." She gestured again, and new holographic displays showed detailed psychological profiles of every major galactic leader, strategic analyses of every spacefaring civilization's weaknesses, and comprehensive plans for managing diplomatic relations with species that had just realized they were no longer the apex intelligences in their own galaxy. "Welcome to the new galactic order," Thornfield said. "We think you're going to find it very educational." As galactic civilizations struggled to comprehend the scope of their miscalculation, Dr. Rebecca Thornfield activated the final phase of humanity's revelation. The holographic displays around the Watcher's facility shifted, showing real-time feeds from human installations throughout the galaxy, not just the 17 star systems they had announced, but 43 additional locations that had remained hidden even during humanity's dramatic disclosure. "You see," Thornfield said, her voice carrying the patient tone of a teacher explaining basic concepts to students, "we've been operating under a fundamental philosophical difference. You study civilizations to understand them. We study civilizations to manage them." The feeds showed human research stations positioned near every major galactic civilization, monitoring centers that had been observing alien cultures for decades, and most disturbing of all, intervention facilities that suggested humanity had been quietly influencing galactic events for generations. Thexnali's consciousness recoiled as the implications cascaded through his awareness. "You've been managing galactic civilization." "Nothing dramatic," Thornfield assured him, calling up specific examples that made the Watcher's crystalline panic structures grow exponentially. "A trade dispute resolved here, a territorial conflict prevented there, occasionally ensuring that certain technological developments occurred in the proper sequence to maintain galactic stability." The data she presented was overwhelming. Dozens of galactic crises that had been quietly resolved through human intervention, technological advances that had been carefully introduced to specific civilizations at precisely calculated moments, and diplomatic solutions that had prevented wars between alien powers, all orchestrated by a species that those same powers had believed was primitive. The hegemony collective war that ended so surprisingly peacefully 3 decades ago, Thornfield continued. Human mediation, the technological breakthrough that allowed the Federation to solve their energy crisis. Human guidance, The discovery of the quantum consciousness storage methods that revolutionized the Watcher's observation capabilities, based on human research. Keth Mora's photonic form flickered rapidly as she processed the revelations. "You've been helping us develop our own technology." "Advanced civilizations require careful guidance," Thornfield replied. "Left to your own devices, galactic powers have a tendency toward stagnation or destructive conflict. Humanity has been providing subtle course corrections." The phrase subtle course corrections carried implications that redefined every major galactic event of the past century. Human influence hadn't been limited to observation. They had been actively shaping galactic civilizations' development while remaining completely hidden from detection. "How many civilizations know about your management?" Thexanali asked. "Until today, none," Thornfield replied. "That was rather the point. Management works best when the managed population believes they are making independent decisions." She activated another display, showing the complex web of influence operations that humanity had conducted across the galaxy. Trade route optimizations that had prevented economic collapse, scientific data that had been carefully leaked to prevent technological stagnation, diplomatic communications that had been subtly modified to prevent wars, all orchestrated by human agents operating with such sophistication that alien civilizations had never detected their intervention. "But why reveal yourselves now?" Riethtal asked. "You could have continued managing galactic civilization indefinitely." Thornfield's expression shifted to something that human observers would recognize as anticipation mixed with predatory satisfaction. "Because the management phase is ending, the galaxy is ready for direct administration." The silence that followed was absolute. "Administration?" Thexanali whispered. "You've reached the limits of independent development," Thornfield explained, her tone remaining conversational despite the cosmic implications of her words. "Galactic civilization has achieved technological stagnation. Territorial conflicts are becoming more frequent despite our interventions, and several civilizations are approaching the development thresholds that could destabilize the entire galactic ecosystem." She gestured, and new displays showed predictive models that the Watchers recognized as far more sophisticated than their own analytical systems. The models painted a disturbing picture. Without continued human intervention, galactic civilization was approaching a cascade failure that would result in technological regression, territorial wars, and the potential collapse of interstellar culture within 3 centuries. "The management phase was preparation," Thornfield continued. "We needed to understand how galactic civilizations function, what their limitations are, and what methods of guidance would be most effective. Now that we have that knowledge, we can transition to direct administration." "Administration," Kethamora repeated, her voice carrying harmonic patterns that indicated near psychological breakdown. "You're talking about ruling the galaxy." "We're talking about saving it," Thornfield corrected. "Galactic civilization requires adult supervision. Humanity is prepared to provide that supervision." The displays around them shifted again, showing comprehensive plans for reorganizing galactic civilization along lines that would optimize resource distribution, prevent territorial conflicts, and ensure continued technological development. The plans were remarkably sophisticated, taking into account the psychological needs and cultural requirements of each species, while establishing administrative structures that would maintain stability across cosmic distances and timescales. "You've planned this for centuries," Thexanali stated, though it was more accusation than question. 437 years, to be precise," Thornfield confirmed. "Since we first detected alien technology in Earth's atmosphere and realized that galactic civilization existed but hadn't contacted us. We began planning for eventual contact at that moment." She paused, accessing data streams that showed the true scope of human preparation. Generations of scientists, diplomats, and strategic planners who had worked in absolute secrecy to prepare for this moment, developing technologies and strategies that would allow humanity to emerge not as supplicants seeking acceptance, but as administrators ready to manage galactic civilization. The question now, Thornfield said, is whether galactic civilization accepts human administration voluntarily or whether we need to implement it through less cooperative methods. The threat was delivered with such casual confidence that its implications took several seconds to penetrate Watcher consciousness. Humanity wasn't requesting permission to join galactic civilization. They weren't even requesting permission to manage it. They were announcing their intention to administer it, with or without alien consent. "What if we refuse?" Thexanali asked, though he suspected the answer would be devastating. Thornfield smiled again, and this time the expression carried unmistakable predatory satisfaction. "Commander, you've been refusing human administration for over a century. It just took you until today to realize it." The implications hit the Watchers simultaneously. Every independent decision made by galactic civilization, every technological advance, every diplomatic resolution, every strategic choice, all of it had been influenced, guided, or directly orchestrated by human intervention. Galactic civilization had been under human administration for generations. They were only now being informed of the fact. "The transition to direct administration will be remarkably smooth," Thornfield continued, "because the administrative structures are already in place. We're simply making them visible." She activated the final display, showing the true scope of human presence throughout the galaxy. Not just the monitoring stations and research facilities they had announced, but administrative centers, communication hubs, and coordination facilities that had been operating in perfect secrecy while managing the daily operations of galactic civilization. "Welcome to the Human Galactic Administration," Thornfield said. "We look forward to working with you in your new capacity as regional supervisors." The Watchers stared at the displays in crystalline horror, realizing that their species, ancient beyond human comprehension, technologically advanced beyond most galactic civilizations, experienced in managing cosmic-scale operations, had been reduced to middle management in an administrative structure they hadn't known existed. "How?" Kethmora whispered. "How did an entire galaxy miss this?" Thornfield's smile became almost sympathetic. "Because you were looking for equals or inferiors. You never considered the possibility that you were being observed by superiors." She began walking toward the transportation system that had brought her to the facility, her mission complete. At the threshold, she paused and turned back to address the Watchers one final time. "Oh, and Commander Thexanali, your resignation from the Watcher Corps has been accepted. Your new position as Regional Supervisor for Dimensional Observation Operations begins tomorrow. The orientation materials have been transmitted to your personal communication array." She stepped into the transportation field and vanished, leaving the Watchers alone with the realization that their ancient civilization had just been absorbed into a galactic administration that had been operating without their knowledge for centuries. In the silence that followed, Thexanali accessed his personal communications and found detailed documentation for his new position in the Human Galactic Administration, complete with salary information, administrative responsibilities, and a welcome package that included improvements to Watcher technology that were centuries beyond their current capabilities. The final document in the package was a personnel file showing that his appointment had been approved 3 months ago, before humanity had officially revealed their existence to the galaxy. Across 17 star systems, as the greatest civilizations in galactic history struggled to process the revelation that they had been unknowingly participating in someone else's governmental structure for over a century, a new understanding began to emerge. Humanity hadn't conquered the galaxy through military force or technological superiority. They had conquered it through patience, planning, and the simple recognition that advanced civilizations, left to their own devices, required management. and they had been providing that management quietly and efficiently, while their subjects remained blissfully unaware that they were subjects at all. The age of independent galactic civilization was over. The age of human administration had begun. And every spacefaring species in the galaxy had just discovered that they had been living in it all along. In the deepest archives of human civilization, stored in quantum encryption systems that operated beyond the reach of alien technology, the true scope of the human galactic administration was finally revealed in its complete form. Alexios Kavanaugh stood before the Terran High Council, the governing body that had remained hidden from galactic civilization for over 4 centuries, addressing leaders whose existence was known only to the highest levels of human government. The council chamber, carved from living asteroid rock in the depths of the Kuiper Belt, housed representatives of humanity's greatest achievement, a civilization that had achieved galactic dominance through the careful application of intelligence, patience, and strategic thinking across cosmic timescales. Phase 4 implementation is complete, Kavanaugh reported, his words transmitted through quantum channels to human administrative centers throughout the galaxy. All major galactic civilizations have been successfully transitioned to direct administration. Resistance levels are within acceptable parameters. Council Prime Yulia Komnenos, whose family had guided human galactic policy for 8 generations, nodded from her position at the center of the crystalline chamber. Casualty reports? 0, Kavanaugh replied. Complete transition accomplished without military action, economic disruption, or cultural trauma. All alien populations remain unaware that their governmental structures have been integrated into human administrative systems. The achievement was unprecedented in galactic history. The peaceful absorption of 17 distinct spacefaring civilizations into a unified administrative structure, accomplished through methods so sophisticated that the absorbed populations didn't realize they had been absorbed. Timeline assessment for full galactic integration? Asked Council member Jiang Wei-ming, whose ancestors had been among the first humans to study crashed alien technology in the early 20th century. 18 months for complete administrative integration, Kavanaugh responded, accessing data streams that showed the progress of human operations throughout the galaxy. Current estimates suggest that galactic populations will require approximately 50 to 70 years to recognize that they are living under unified administration. 50 to 70 years. 2 to 3 generations of alien populations would live, work, and develop under human administration before they realized that their independent civilizations had become administrative divisions of a species they had once considered primitive. The irony is perfect, observed Council member Fatima al-Rashid, whose expertise in xenopsychology had shaped human interaction protocols for over a century. They will spend decades trying to understand how humans achieved technological parity so quickly, never realizing that the question itself is backwards. The truth that would remain hidden from galactic civilization was elegantly simple. Humans hadn't achieved technological parity with alien civilizations. Alien civilizations had been prevented from exceeding human technological capabilities through carefully managed limitations that had been in place for over 2 centuries. Every major technological breakthrough achieved by galactic civilizations had been based on research data carefully provided by human scientists operating under deep cover. Every resource shortage that had limited alien development had been artificially created through human manipulation of trade routes and supply chains. Every territorial conflict that had prevented alien civilizations from focusing on advancement had been quietly orchestrated by human diplomatic operations. Galactic civilization hadn't been developing independently. It had been developing under human guidance, following technological and cultural pathways that ensured it would never exceed human capabilities. Status report on the Revelation Protocols, Council Prime Komnenos requested. All major alien populations are responding to managed disclosure exactly as psychological models predicted, Kavanaugh replied. Shock, confusion, and grudging acceptance, followed by integration into administrative structures, they believe they are joining voluntarily. The Revelation Protocols represented the culmination of centuries of xenopsychological research, carefully designed disclosure methods that allowed alien civilizations to learn about human capabilities in stages, preventing psychological breakdown while ensuring acceptance of human authority. And the hidden civilizations? Asked Council Member Elizabeth Hawthorne, whose portfolio included management of the 18 additional galactic powers that had considered themselves hidden from conventional observation. Full integration proceeding on schedule, Kavanaugh reported. The stealth civilizations are proving more adaptable to direct administration than we anticipated. Their experience with hidden operations apparently translates well to understanding administrative subtlety. The stealth civilizations had been humanity's greatest challenge and most rewarding success. Species that had achieved technology advanced enough to hide from galactic observation had required different management approaches, but their integration into human administration had provided access to technologies and perspectives that enhanced human capabilities throughout the galaxy. Threat assessment for independent development? Council Prime Komnenos asked, addressing humanity's greatest concern about galactic administration. Eliminated, Kavanaugh replied with satisfaction. All galactic civilizations are now operating within administrative frameworks that prevent independent technological development beyond approved parameters. Risk of alien civilizations exceeding human capabilities has been reduced to zero. The greatest fear of human strategic planners had been that alien civilizations, given sufficient time and independence, might develop technologies that exceeded human understanding. The transition to direct administration had eliminated that possibility permanently. What about long-term cultural development? Asked Council Member Al-Rashid. Cultural diversity will be maintained within acceptable parameters, Kavanaugh assured her. Administrative integration doesn't require cultural homogenization. Each civilization will maintain its distinct identity while operating within unified governmental structures. It was humanity's greatest diplomatic achievement, the creation of galactic unity without cultural destruction, accomplished through administrative methods that preserved alien civilizations while ensuring human authority. Final assessment, Council Prime Komnenos said, requesting the comprehensive evaluation that would determine humanity's next phase of development. Kavanaugh accessed the deepest analytical systems, pulling data from monitoring stations throughout the galaxy, assessment reports from human administrators embedded in alien governments, and predictive models that projected galactic development across the next millennium. The Human Galactic Administration is fully operational, he announced. All 17 major civilizations and 18 stealth civilizations are integrated into unified administrative structures. Economic systems are optimized for galactic-scale resource distribution. Territorial conflicts have been eliminated through administrative boundary management. Technological development is proceeding along guided pathways that ensure continued advancement without destabilization. He paused, accessing the final data set that represented humanity's ultimate achievement. Most importantly, population psychological assessments indicate that all alien civilizations believe they are living in independent, self-governing societies. Administrative integration has been so thorough that governed populations cannot distinguish between human authority and their own decision-making processes. The silence that followed carried the weight of cosmic achievement. Humanity had accomplished what no species in galactic history had even attempted: the creation of a unified galactic civilization that governed itself without recognizing that it was governed. Recommendations for next phase development? Council Prime Komnenos asked. Kavanaugh smiled, accessing strategic plans that extended human influence beyond the galaxy itself. Initiate protocol expansion. Begin preparation for intergalactic contact operations. The implications were staggering. Humanity wasn't content with managing a single galaxy. They were preparing to extend their administrative methods to galactic civilizations beyond the Milky Way, using the same patient, methodical approaches that had achieved galactic dominance. Timeline for intergalactic operations? Asked Council Member Zhang. Conservative estimate: 200 years for initial contact protocols, Kavanaugh replied. Optimistic projection: 75 years for direct administrative integration of target galaxies. 200 years. 8 generations of human development to prepare for operations that would extend human influence across cosmic distances that dwarfed their current achievements. The Andromeda Galaxy shows particularly promising opportunities, Kavanaugh continued, accessing deep space observations that revealed civilizations in nearby galaxies that remained unaware of humanity's existence. Preliminary analysis suggests 14 distinct spacefaring civilizations that could be integrated into administrative structures using modified versions of our galactic protocols. Council Prime Komnenos stood, her movement signaling the end of the session and the beginning of humanity's next phase of cosmic development. Approved. Begin protocol expansion preparation immediately. As the Council dispersed, returning to administrative duties that spanned the galaxy, Kavanaugh remained in the chamber, accessing personal communication channels that connected him to the woman who had delivered humanity's revelation to the Watchers. "Status report from the field, Rebecca," he said, his words transmitted to Dr. Thornfield's current location aboard a human diplomatic vessel approaching the hegemony's capital world. "Complete success," she replied, her voice carrying the satisfaction of perfect execution. "The hegemony leadership has agreed to voluntary integration into our Galactic Cooperation Initiative. They're actually thanking us for the opportunity to participate in what they believe is their own idea." Kavanaugh laughed, appreciating the elegant psychology that had convinced alien civilizations to request admission into administrative structures that had been designed to govern them. "And they still don't understand what's happening. They think they're joining a partnership between equals," Thornfield replied. "The idea that they've been absorbed into a human governmental structure hasn't occurred to them. As far as they're concerned, this is just the next logical step in galactic diplomacy. It was perfect. Galactic civilizations were voluntarily integrating into human administrative structures while believing they were participating in cooperative initiatives that they had helped design." "Any resistance to administrative protocols?" Kavanaugh asked. "None whatsoever," Thornfield assured him. "They're actually implementing our administrative systems faster than we projected. Apparently, our management methods are more efficient than their previous governmental structures." The final irony: alien civilizations preferred human administration to their own governmental systems, even when they didn't realize they were being administered. "Time to completion for your sector?" Kavanaugh inquired. 6 weeks for full integration," Thornfield replied. "After that, the hegemony will be operating as a human administrative division while believing they're governing themselves independently. 6 weeks to complete the absorption of a galactic civilization that had considered itself one of the most powerful forces in known space. Excellent work, Rebecca. Return to base when integration is complete. We're beginning preparation for intergalactic operations." Thornfield's pause carried the weight of cosmic implications. "How many galaxies are we planning to administer?" Kavanaugh accessed strategic projections that extended human influence across the observable universe, encompassing millions of galaxies and billions of potential civilizations. All of them. The communication ended, leaving Kavanaugh alone in the chamber that had witnessed humanity's transition from planetary species to galactic administrators. Through the transparent barriers that protected the facility from the vacuum of space, he could see the stars that now represented human territory extending across the galaxy. But his gaze was focused beyond those stars, toward the distant galaxies that would become humanity's next administrative challenges. 4 centuries of preparation had culminated in the peaceful absorption of galactic civilization. Now began the preparation for operations that would extend human influence across cosmic distances that dwarfed their current achievements. The galaxy had been the beginning, not the destination. And somewhere in the depths of space, alien civilizations in distant galaxies continued their daily lives, unaware that they were about to become administrative divisions of a species whose existence they had never suspected. The age of human galactic administration was ending. The age of human cosmic administration was about to begin. In the final analysis, the greatest weapon in humanity's arsenal hadn't been technology, military force, or even superior intelligence. It had been the galaxy's complete inability to recognize